We will, at this moment, introduce our Chief Whip, Mr. Festus Adebisi.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah. We have so many questions with us here. We'll try to make it so brief, and we want to adopt a strategy of having about 3 of the questions asked one after the other, and then doctor will answer them in that order. And when we announce the name of whoever asked question, we would like them to be recognized, just a brief standing up, and then we'll be able to know who actually asked the question. Okay. Right. I have the first question here with me by Akim. The question says, is this model currently practiced anywhere in the world? And if there is, where? Please, can we have Akim stand briefly? All right. Thank you. Yeah. We have another question from Ben. Will referendum on the unit of Nigeria not be the first step in the process? Referendum on Nigeria. The first process, about the first step in the process of restructuring, whether we'll have a referendum. Yes. First step in the process. Right. We have the next question by Dr. Ayokunla. In line with your vision, are you advocating for a new parliamentary constitution? Your models look more parliamentary than presidential. Oh, Dr. Kumola, please. And then Mr. Ben. All right. Thank
you. The reason I asked to see you is Ojulorowa. Meaning eye to eye contact. Let me start by saying no human being has monopoly of wisdom. I do not know everything. Neither do I have all the answers to the questions. I'd simply, and I will continue to do that given that which I have tested, I have studied about, and that which I can defend if called upon. Let me start with the third question. Not because I'm dodging the first, you see how they look tell. Is this not a new parliamentary constitution? It appears you are veering away from presidential system. I will tell you what it is. It is neither parliamentary nor presidential. It is modified presidential system. I was in the political constitution, 3 names joined together, committee of the 2014 National Conference. And if you know the wastage that Nigerian had been perpetrating over the presidential system, it is very abusive. It's very expensive. We cannot afford it. And so, within that conference, we developed a prototype called Modified Presidential System, where the Prime Minister will be like the one acting as Senate President, coordinating with the President who will still be executive, but his vice president that you have today will be a functioning prime minister within the parliament to reduce the unnecessary expenses that we've incurred. You can access the National Conference website and get all the details of that. So it's not a presidential system like you have in America. It's a modified. Neither is it a parliamentary system that we had before. It's somewhere in between, a modified presidential system. And all the delegates endorsed as this would be the way forward for Nigeria. Unfortunately, President Jonathan Goodluck did not send any bill, executive or otherwise, to the Senate. He simply handed over the report to President Buhari, who decided to keep it, not even in any KIV, but in the dustbin of history, which they are now seeing the blunder in that. And they call their party under Nasir El-Rufai to look into those things. I'll talk more about that if time permits. So it's neither or. It's not a bat also. You know, a bat is neither a bird nor a rat. So they took B from bird and AT from rat and join it together and call it bat. In Yoruba, calls it kosheku, kosheye. It's a different system. And each nation must learn to build a governmental apparatus, a structure, a framework that suits not only the temperament of the nation, but that can accommodate where they are. Example is Singapore. Singapore, you would think Lee Kuan Yew was a dictator. And the West attacked him over and over again. And he would say, I am a benevolent dictator. I know what is good for the development of my nation. I am not harassing anyone. We are doing everything within the law passed by our parliament. And consequently, mind your business and let us mind our own. Today, Singapore has transited from being a third world country into a first world country. We must sit together on the table of brotherhood and do what I call made to measure. We brought in the American system hook, line, and sinker without going through the processes they went through before they got to where they were. We are an evolving nation, and we must take that into consideration. What suits our temperament? What suits our, where we at? Is that clear, sir? Okay. And the guy who said model anywhere in the world, you have heard my answer to that. Okay. Now, first step referendum, that would be a disaster. A complete disaster, because you will just create chaos. What has been, what has plagued Africa, Nigeria inclusive, is that we put democracy before development. Show me one country in the world that prioritizes democracy before development. You can read the history of America, read the history of Great Britain. At what stage did they allow women to vote? At what stage did they allow black to vote? This one man, one vote that we embrace and endorse has given us electrocracy instead of democracy. We're excited every 4 years. And now, are we saying? Yes. I just want to be sure that nothing is exploding. You know, I'm an orphan now. My mother just died. So I have to be careful. It's okay, sir. She passed on at 108. She just relocated and changed address. We have plagued our nation. If I begin to talk about the wastage, you will see that it is not colonial masters ruining us. We are the ones ruining ourselves. it appears those who rule over Nigeria hate the people. The sovereignty lies in the hands of the people, and we must educate them so that they can decide their own destiny, not just with their own votes, but with their own voice and what I call constructive rebellion to oppression. So, sir, referendum cannot be the first process, because then the North will be plagued against the South. If we put a geo-economic restructuring first, and you have your own mobile phone, I have my own mobile phone, you have your own color television, I have my own color television. The temptation to steal mine, we're not there. Let's go back to pre-independence and up to the First Republic in 1963, before the years of the locust, the military intervention in our political process. Awolowo did everything he did, not just because he was a visionary leader, but because he was in charge and in control of the resources of Western region. I'm talking Awo, I'm talking about the government, not just the person, because it wasn't a one-man show. The British government challenged Awo that you could not build university on your own. He said, I will show you I can. And look at University of Ife. Are there great Ife here? At a point in time, it was probably the best campus in the whole country. And yet, it was built from the resources of cocoa and internally generated revenue. When it did that, both the East and the West were challenged. Today you have University of Nigeria, Nsukka, the vision of one of the founding fathers, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. And you have Ahmadu Bello University also, the vision of Sardauna of Sokoto, Ahmadu Bello. In those days, if you talk architecture, the best university for architecture is Ahmadu Bello University in Nigeria at that point in time. And each university began to develop the citizens, the students, in line with what is going on in their environment. That was what made those regions golden era. How many people will believe that Western region had television before France? Is that believable? But that's the truth. You are Google generation, I beg your pardon. You are older than Google generation. Because I know them when I see them, they put their phone here. It must be in this pocket and in this pocket. You understand? That's why I know who they are. I've never put my phone here. I put it in a bag. But that's my generation. It must be here because they carry it everywhere. They will not believe, you can Google it, that Western region had television before France, before South Africa. That the first skyscraper building was in Ibadan, the Cocoa House, in Africa. There was healthy competition. It was because we prioritized economy before politics. And no nation develops by prioritizing the electrocracy we have done without really looking at what is best. I have other papers here that I can make available. See, there's nothing stopping the southeastern part of the country becoming the China and the Taiwan of Nigeria. You can look at the economic advantage of each zone, develop everything around there, including manpower development, around what is their thrust, what exactly is their competitive advantage, and let them begin to have healthy competition like you have between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Many people do not know that Abu Dhabi is richer than Dubai. Big time. Dubai did not develop because of oil. They attracted foreign capital. They liberalized their tax policies. They give you 15 years, more or less, tax-free for you to come and invest in their country. Now that they have developed they can't take those infrastructure away anymore. The trillion-dollar companies today are not oil companies anymore. They are Apple. We are not daft. I read yesterday that the best paid robotic engineer in the United States is a 26-year-old Nigerian. We are not idiots. We entrusted our educational system to those who have no value for education. And now there's huge brain drain. So let us first develop economically each zone so that everyone can be comfortable. We have 52 mineral resources. There is no state in Nigeria without its own mineral resource. If we begin to focus on developing each region or each zone, as it may be called, you discover that the political restructuring will be easy. And that's why those 16 progressives dovetails from economic development into a geopolitical restructuring. If you put politics first, you put the cart before the horse. There'll be movement, but it will be backwards. Okono laving betile. Ba bekele akashu kama patasefo. If you don't have gari at home, don't cook vegetable. You will eat it that way. Do you understand me?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah. We have the next 3 sets of questions. The 3 are closely related. So I'm going to run the 3 all together. I have one from Akinyemi. Will 16-point agenda for restructuring and governance be possible irrespective of the political party? Will it be possible? Will all political parties buy into the idea? How do you want it to be done? Then, someone have another one here. That what is your perspective with respect to having one term for 6 years for presidents, if this is going to be involved in the agenda? And that was by Mr. Remy Adeloye. Please, as we mentioned the name, we quickly stand up for recognition, please. Thank you. And then one is by Olaimola Amuo. The 16-point agenda span 8 years period. Why not 4 years? Yeah.
Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies. Will 16-point agenda be made available or be possible regardless or irrespective of political party in power? One of our national dilemma is that an IBB and his wife being First Lady will start Better Life for Rural Women. And it will be gaining ground and going strong. And then an Abacha will take over and his wife will start Better Women for Rural Life. And just cancel and change it. Governance is a continuum. I hope that's clear. What King Saul did, I'm gleaning from the Bible. What King Saul did while he was king of Israel will result into 3 years non-stop famine in the day of King David. He would try all the economic strategies possible, but the famine will not stop until he will seek God and said, how did we get here? And the Spirit of God will tell him, it is the bloodthirsty house of Saul, because he killed the Gibeonites. And then they would turn to the Gibeonites to make reparation. You do not know what went behind the scene before MKO was given Grand Commander of the Federal Republic. I said, until we bring a closure to what happened, the plague will continue because blood cries from the ground. We are becoming a nation filled with the crime of blood. You say, what is the relevance of that? If governance is a continuum, and this 16-point agenda becomes what a national vision, then it does not matter. Provided, not the government, not the party, provided the people of Nigeria themselves. That's why my focus is on the people. Provided the people of Nigeria themselves, this is what we want, this is how we'll be governed. Any party, you will see 2019 election. Let me pause here and say, Atiku would have had no advantage whatsoever if President Muhammad Buhari had embraced what was given to him 2 months into his administration. The moment he came into power, I prepared a 42-page document, 16-page executive summary, 6-page further executive summary, a super executive, and gave to him called The Legacy of Muhammadu Buhari, asking him to do what Abraham Lincoln did, except that I forgot that it was number 15 and not number 16. And Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president of America. You can't give what you don't have. I'm trying to remember his title, something of Adamawa. Turakin of Adamawa had taken the restructuring agenda, and you see the Yoruba elders, the Adebanjos, and those who are not greeting themselves before, including Obasanjo, endorsing him because of restructuring agenda. You will find out that before January, Buhari will be compelled to start talking about restructuring. Let me tell you what gives me this boldness, this confidence, and this courage. It's not money. I'm not a rich man. I pay my bills. Do you understand me? I'm not poor. I'm not rich. I pay my bills. I will not spend my life pursuing what I will not take out of here. We brought nothing into this world. It is certain we can take nothing out of here. But I want you to hear me. How did I get into social activism? How did I get there? By the grace of God, and you can Google, they'll give you date and time. God gave me a prophetic word that I first gave in America and returned home to give it in Nigeria, that a black man of influence was going to rise in America. He'll be black, he'll be Christian, and he will occupy the White House as president. Obama was nowhere. Nobody knew that there was any Obama at the time that prophetic word was given. He will occupy the White House so that for the first time in the history of America, it will no longer be called White House, it will become Black and White House. It looks like nursery rhyme, but that prophecy was given. Obama then won the election and became the president of of America. And I saw Nigerians trooping to the streets, wearing Obama vests, buying beer for themselves, rejoicing. Some Nigerians put money together to go give to Obama, not knowing that the law, American law, will not permit that. They were just excited that a black man has arisen, is a Kenyan, is a black man. And I noticed that, wait a minute. Truthfully, social mobility is not frozen. It is credible leadership that is lacking. One can then begin to steer the energy of this populace and get result if your interest isn't for the people, not your political ambition or aspiration. That was where it began. And I preached that fiery message. Social mobility is not frozen. Credible leadership is lacking. And began to mobilize Nigeria. When Save Nigeria Group began, within 2-3 months, we had in our data over 3 million young people that signed on. Nobody was asking them for money. PDP realized that even the member of their party is not up to 3 million. They began to listen to us because democracy is a ruthless game of number. My advocacy is not towards party. It's towards the people. Because without the people, no party can survive. Is that clear? So let's sell the vision to the people. Let the people themselves buy the vision and let them make a demand from their government. This is how we'll be ruled. Because no matter the status that a person occupies in public life, is still servant of the people. But the moment we swear them in, they become lords of the manor. They don't have a right to do what they're doing. It's because the people have become docile, voiceless, visionless, and they think they are at the mercy of the government, not understand that the government is at their mercy. Let me extend that. In recent times, the fathers of faith in the church and everyone began to say, get your PVC. Get your PVC. Get your PVC. And it became a clarion call. And I paused and said, isn't this stupid? We are not investing time in who emerges at the primary. By the time you get your PVC, you are faced with two devils. You have to choose one. Are we getting our people to understand that they have to be part of the process that will produce the best, the brightest, and the fittest? Those are the issues. If government remains a continuum, we are selling a national vision that every Nigerian will embrace, because this bleeding must stop. So regardless of the party in power, you cannot escape what the people are asking for. One term of 6 years, whether you have one term of 6 years or you have 2 terms of 8 years, is have a dozen of one and 6 of the other. When you step into power, the advantage of the 6 years is that the first 2 years you are learning the rope if you have not been there before. So you can have the next 4 years to implement your agenda without excessive wastage of resources on another election. If you have 2 terms of 8 years, however, you spend the first 2 years of the 4 years learning. By the time you're learning the rope is another election. But if you're wise and smart, you have 6 years in addition to your learning to fulfill what your agenda is. But when we get to where we are going, the substance of this argument and this movement and this drive is to make the center less attractive. Less attractive. That it doesn't matter even if it's a goat that you put there. It's not coming to my backyard to eat my yam. Do you understand me? Because gradually power will devolve to the federating units so that we have a very strong center and a very strong federating units. And more power from the state or the federal will also devolve to local government where the rubber meets the road. The local government means nothing in Nigeria today. The governors do what they want to do with their funds. And they have picked who the pipers will be because they will dictate the tune. We must make the center less attractive. And when we have 6 geopolitical zones, and each zone, whether you say 4 years each, or 8 years, or 6 years, each zone, no longer south-north. Each zone will now determine who's next, which zone is to be present. Before it gets to you, whether 6 or 8 years, before it gets to you again, it will be 24 years. Nobody will. Quebec, Iraq, or where are we now? Not just not Iraq. This is the Niger Delta of Canada, right? Everyone will begin to develop its own place because the center is less attractive. In that day, it will be the federating units giving money to the center, as in the First Republic, not the states going with a cup in hand to collect the cake they are not baking, that they spend anyhow on frivolities and useless things. Okay. And then this, you said this 16-point agenda is for 8-year period. You didn't listen well. It's not for 8 years, it's for 10 years. Because it has to be progressively done. We have driven in the wrong direction since 1999, or with the intervention of the military in 66, and then we have been driving the wrong direction. If you are going to come back, there's a U-turn in God. Your U-turn will take the process of covering the same mileage again. If you rush restructuring, North will kick. You know why? Because everything about federal government today is dependent majorly on the resources that come from the South. And when you say restructuring, they catch fever because they think you want to take the petrodollar away from them. But if we begin to do job economic development, and they see that every area can, you see, Nigerians must understand that the North has what they are offering the nation. Shut down the Niger Bridge today, and let not those tomatoes and potatoes and those things that are being grown in the North move to the South. Lagos will die. We need ourselves. We need more trustful give and take. When each zone is developed economically, you will discover that within 10-year period, everyone will calm down. The referendum will become easy then, because I have my own mobile phone, you have your own mobile phone. We can easily agree on how we'll be governed, and not the tail wagging the dog anymore. I hope I made sense.
Thank you, sir. The next group of questions. First one by Dr. Ayo Okunla. Do you believe that President Muhammadu Buhari deserves second term in 2019? Next, from Ademola Adenuga. Right. From the body language of President Muhammadu Buhari, he is not willing to send the executive document on restructuring in Nigeria. Can we then turn to NAS, National Assembly, to kickstart the process? How can we get the majority of the 36 governors to support the idea? Yes. Sir, you are among notable Nigerians that support and recommended President Buhari. Can you please tell us what went wrong? And the last one for this segment. Sir, do you have a candidate in 2019 presidential election? This is by Adediran Adebisi.
Kindly give me the privilege of seeing those who ask the questions. Thank you, sir. Merci down. Does PMB deserve a second term? I wish I can determine that. I have only one vote. I'm not in the position to say, yes, it does, yes, it doesn't. The people he had served, if he had served them well, they will say, we are returning you. If he hasn't, they will say no. The power of incumbency and the theory of it has been broken since the time of Jonathan. But let me be practical with us, because these questions are coming from a genuine heart and genuine concern, but they do not understand the implications of what we say and what we do. Right now, we have two Northerners, major contenders, the incumbent and the incoming. If Atiku wins that election, is entitled to 2 terms, it simply means North will be in power for 12 years non-stop. You can't stop that. Constitutionally, you'll be entitled to 2 terms. You can't stop it. Whereas, if Buhari gets a second term, you know that 4 years of endurance, power is returning to the South for another 8 years. Except you give the sick and the weak, and one of them dies again. Is that clear to us? Now, let me take that into, you recommended Buhari. What went wrong? God recommended Saul to be king of Israel. What went wrong? I'm not going to stand there and be saying, I regret. I don't live in regret valley. Number one, he became ill. It can happen to anybody. And that sickness almost took his life. In fact, people were already praying for him to die without understanding the implications of what they were praying for. You better ask God not to give you what you desire. That God should grant you the desires of your heart instead. Give you what he has chosen for you. I'd had the privilege of sitting with Mr. President in last year alone 18 times. I'd flown abroad with him at least twice. I knew his heart desire. I knew his passion. But is one tree in the midst of forest? How much can he do? An executive president in Nigeria, upon entering that office, has at least a minimum of 3,700 appointments to make. How many people does he know? So he's going to rely on those who know A, B, C, and they'll bring to him. And one of the disastrous things that happened to us is that strange bedfellows formed the government, and everybody began to demand for his own share of the cake. APC is an amalgam of strange bedfellows. Do you understand me? ACN, ANPP, CPC, a part of ABGA, and the new PDP. I remember I placed an embargo on election in Nigeria, and the people in APC said, they have bought me. I stood publicly and said, we have taken a penny from anyone in power in Nigeria. May God remove my name from the book of life publicly. Subsequently, I've been given money twice by Buhari. In London, he gave me £5,000 because I was paying my own bills. And he gave me £5,000. And I distributed £5,000 into 5 envelopes and gave to his assistants. Second time, when we started building the Citadel, he wired 5 million naira to the account of Citadel. A free gift to church charity, not me. By the grace of God, nobody can buy me because I'm already bought. Jesus paid for the price of my life. Therefore, what we are doing is not motivated by what we can get. I've never gone to anyone in power, regardless of how close I've been to Mr. President, to ask, can you do this for me? My son followed me to his office, his home one day. And when he saw my first son, he said, what does he do? I said, he's a media person. He said, oh, let me engage him. I said, no. The governor of Kaduna offered my son a CEO position. I said, no. Let him start from the bottom and grow. I do not want him to be a celebrity overnight. The tree that grew overnight died the same day. Listen, friends, I do not know what went wrong. There's so many factors you can see. Nigerian politicians only serve themselves. They think power is for self and not for service. Until that orientation changes, we'll still be in the same logjam almost forever, perpetually. So if you ask me what really went wrong, I can tell you that strange bedfellows came together and center cannot hold. But now let's hope they will put their house in order now, prioritize the nation, repackage themselves, and put round peg in round holes and square peg in square holes, because I asked a question last week. Why is our Minister of Budget and Planning a lawyer? What does he know about budget? What does he know about planning? Well, just wait, sir. I'm not, in fact, I can tell you that the reason he gave 3 portfolios to Fashola was originally that was a person he wanted to be vice president. And he forgot that Fashola is only one person. That those 3 portfolios are heavy. And he cannot possibly execute everything all by himself. We will get to the place where the right person will be in the right place at the right time to move our nation forward. And we will look for those who have expertise in those areas before we make them servants of the people. The word minister means servant. That's what it means. But in our own clime, it's a chieftaincy title. Body language. Do you think body language, how do you get these things ratified? If body language of Muhammadu Buhari is not looking like it will endorse this, and it will not send any executive bill to the National Assembly, how are you going to accomplish this? I can tell you authoritatively that National Assembly have been working, regardless of the noise you are hearing, to amend the Constitution. They are doing it progressively. They have gone far, and it now will be between them and the president when they will send it for his accent. And if the president does not endorse, we know how to call the troops out. We know how to. But one thing that I would like to say, the APC government lost a great opportunity and squandered the goodwill that brought it into power. Because for the first time in the history of Nigeria, a political party had more than 2/3 of the states of the federation, with governors belonging to APC numbering 24, 25. They could have ratified anything. But while Ali Baba and 40 thieves were stealing, they forgot the main reason for which you bring people into power. The Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, as amended, says the welfare and the security of the citizens is a primary objective of any government. In a situation where all our leaders go abroad for their medical checkup, including me. I mean, I do my medical checkup abroad. I don't want anybody to put expired injection inside my products and I die before my time. That's why I say including me. And if you say, how dare you? What are you doing here? Whether you got here one day, you didn't live here all the time, you were not born here. You escaped. You escaped from hell and came to heaven. But we want you to bring heaven back to hell and let's rebuild it. And together we can do it. They've squandered that goodwill. God willing, I hope they'll be given another opportunity to rebuild. And it doesn't, listen, it doesn't require a lot to satisfy Nigerians. If in November, December, January, and I'm not going to put that on the card here this afternoon, because if I don't talk to the president, I don't talk to the people. I don't do that because I have unlimited access to him. It will be unfair to say the things I've not discussed with him publicly. That's why preachers must not speak to people except they have spoken to God on behalf of the people. And then they can come to the people having heard from God. There are 3 things he can do that will sweep the polls and will make whoever is opposing him a child's play. Whether he takes the decision or not is up to him. All I know is God, in his infinite wisdom, had positioned us not to allow Nigeria go down the drain under our watch. And we are here to begin to influence you to think more about home and about your country than you have been doing. And when the right time comes, I will show you chapter and verse why Nigeria cannot move forward without you. Do I have a candidate for 2019? That's one of the questions, right? Do I have a candidate? Yes, I do. But it's called secret ballot.
So go with this one, or go with here. Don't bother. Why not work with to fulfill this letter? Go here, right? Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. We have another set of questions. Yeah. Please, we've observed that there are some of the questions that look repetitive. They are interlapping. And we don't want to continue to repeat questions. So if your question is not actually being asked again, please note that part of it has already been answered. There is a question by Peter Idowu. The question says, why not work towards a third force political implementation that can fulfill this idea? Another question by Wole Alabi. With the current geopolitical disposition of Nigeria, do you think you can ever be elected as president to actualize your vision? And then the last question says, given your weight and commitment to New Nigeria, will you be willing to serve as the chairman of the Presidential Commission for Restructuring? Please, those that ask the question, let's quickly see you up. Okay, thank you.
Please remain standing.
You may be seated. I saw you when you got home. You will see that I write, the faintest ink is more brilliant than the most important brain. If I do not write down, I will forget the questions and mix them up. Why not work towards a third force? Answer. OBJ worked towards a third force. Where is the third force? Truth be told, sometimes we think a missionary is a mission in a hurry. It is not. Just like godliness is not microwave. Look at Britain. There are smaller parties that win elections at local government. Look at America. They have smaller parties. But when you mention Britain, two major parties come to your mind. The Conservative and Labour. And when you mention America, the Democrats and Republicans. There are bad eggs in every party. And recently I actually said publicly, there are two sides of the same coin. Do you understand me? Because all the atrocities that PDP perpetrated are now being found in APC. And it appears PDP has learned its lessons and APC is about to learn its own. When the chicken begins to eat its own intestine, it's about to die. And when short men cast long shadows, the sun is about to set. Do you understand? All right. Let me answer those questions. We should spend quality time to nurture institutions as well as our political parties so that each one the citizen will know what each party stands for. And based on conviction, I will join a party who believes in what I want to see done. Is that clear? Rather than nurturing the parties, we have these fellows that do not only cross carpet, they jump from party to party because their interest is to get power at all costs, not because they want to serve the people. I do not see why any leader, and I'm not mentioning names, should abandon the party that he used to get into power, that confer benefits on it, even if there were things wrong there. Because of one person, you do not burn down the school because you have graduated. There are others who will pass through that school. We should do all in our power to nurture I have no intent intention to start a political party. My assignment is to start a political family. And if you ask questions, I will answer later. What is a political family? It's very simple. I will raise such an incredible political family by God's grace that will have the same distinct DNA, that you know our value system, and it does not matter what party you find yourself. It does not matter what position you find yourself. You carry the value system into that position. Therefore, you will see that there's no party that will not have influence. If time permits, I will explain it further. So, sir, I've done another third dimension in my life. I do not need another third force. We have seen where third force ended, because it's not going to work. If APC is going to be further developed, let's nurture it and let us know what it stands for. Both parties now do not have any clear agenda. What has happened to our country is that whatever is the agenda that the presidential candidate sets for himself becomes the agenda of the party. That's not how parties develop and are nurtured. Geopolitical disposition. Will you ever win an election with geopolitical disposition? I do not understand what you mean by that. What we are running currently is that without writing it and enshrining it in our constitution is a rotational principle that if the North has it for 8 years, the South will have it for 8 years or 2 terms each. And they did that with Obasanjo. The North was not glamorous. What's the word? No. Magnanimous. Thank you. That's the word. You see, English is a second language. If I'm expressing myself in Yoruba now, I will not forget any word. So, the North was magnanimous. They allowed those 8 years uninterrupted. But when the sick and the weak were packaged for the North, and one dies in office and South took it over again, we became people the North cannot trust anymore. That deepened the distrust that led to what happened in 2015. Right now, God willing, if Buhari finishes his term, if I said, because it depends on the outcome of the election, we might be bold to be beating our chest that A will win, B will lose, until the eggs are hatched and the chicken are counted. Don't count your chicken before they are hatched. It should get every one of them to work so hard to sell themselves to the electorate and not just do stomach infrastructure and then stomach the money meant for infrastructure at the end of the day. So, if by God's grace Buhari fulfills his term, I've told Nigerians to get ready. He's number 15. I'll be number 16. I'm not saying it here. I told him himself. And if you ask me why, I knew as far back as when I was born. It's not something that I'm talking about boastfully. No. When Jesus stood before Pilate and said, are you the king of Israel? He didn't answer apologetically. He said, to this end was I born, and for this purpose came I into the world. I believe firmly that God raised me for such a time as this, so that Nigeria can be saved, Nigeria can be changed, and Nigeria can become great in our lifetime. And I'm totally committed to that. But guess what? At the same time, it's not a matter of life and death for me. If I see somebody better who can do the job, I release the person to go do it. Because great leaders do not mind who takes the credit as long as the job is done. Would you accept to serve as chairman of the Presidential Commission on Restructuring? You can give it to a person who does not know what he's saying. But if I'm given the opportunity to serve, I'll gladly do it because it is doable and we can do it. But it depends on who is offering me, because Jesus taught us to pray. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Thank you. Are we tired? Beautiful. I know we can't be tired. Now, this next set of questions has to do with diasporans intervention. I have a question from Dasola. With regard to the 16 pragmatic steps, especially the issue that applies to the technocrats in diaspora, please, what are the boxes that must be checked to drive and encourage participation by diasporans? Next question by Yewande. What provisions will be made to ensure we can participate as diasporans in the voting process in Nigeria? Then, we have another question from Dr. Salako. Part of the questions will be read. With the new idea of a political family, can this movement drive the process of allowing diaspora voters registration and participation in voting? And then we have the last one from Emmanuel Guille. How do we engage in the diaspora consultancy? In your 16-point agenda, where does the anti-corruption agenda fits in?
Well, it's all right. Can I see the gentlemen and ladies who ask the questions? Thank you. Very intelligent questions. Very provocative too. Because you're provoking things that should be the concern of everyone. Let me start from anti-corruption. I'm not going to buy any campaign sloganeering or a campaign that's built around anti-corruption. Not again. Because until you change the system and the structure that is facilitating and enabling corruption, it will never stop. A clean man that jumps into a sewage tank can't come out smelling like roses. It doesn't matter how clean you are. The present perversity we run, we corrupt anybody. And I have examples to give, but I will hold that back for now. Let me extend what I'm saying to your country, to the Western world. There's no nation under heavens where there's no corruption. If you see them in your community digging a road that is well tarred, that has no pothole, but they are digging it again, is because they do not want to return the money back into the covers. The difference between you and us is that officials can be corrupt in your own system here. In our own system, corruption is official. And I will tell you what breeds it. There is no law in your books, your statutes. There is no law you have in America or Britain that we do not have in Nigeria. Lawyers will tell you about statutes of general application. Laws that existed in Britain up to 1900 are all applicable in Nigeria. And beyond then, progressively, we have enacted laws similar to your laws. But ours are observed in breaches. Yours are complied with. If you commit crime here, you can't get away with it. If you commit crime there, it depends on who you are. Let me go a step further, if I'm not taking too much time. May I ask you a question also, just to provoke? a thought. You are aware that the Lord God Almighty destroyed the whole planet in the plague called the flood? Yes or no? You've read it. It doesn't matter what book. The whole earth was submerged. What was the reason for God destroying the planet? The Bible says God saw that corruption was, the whole earth had become corrupt. The whole earth had become corrupt. And violence was everywhere. So wherever you see corruption, you see the twin devil, violence. At that time, whose treasury was looted? Which governmental's treasury was looted when God said the whole earth was corrupt? See, the problem we have in our country is this. Corruption is rampant everywhere in the world. But we have not gotten to the place where right is might and might is not right. The rule of law is violated by people and nobody can hold them accountable. I remember preaching one day over Dasuki's situation. Some have said Dasuki was the one who arrested Buhari when he was overthrown. And now he has put him back in jail or in detention, regardless of the laws, regardless of applications, habeas corpus, produce a body for bail. He has refused. And he came back and said, in certain situations, the security of a nation or human rights are subject, human rights are subject to the security situation in a nation. Now that's a person saying, I am the law. Letet moi. And I got up to challenge it, that that's dangerous for our country. That if Dasuki got money from the central bank and distributed it to people, he didn't have the key to the vault of central bank. Why would you retain the governor of central bank that paid him the money? And where is the president that authorized payment? Why are they not being brought to book, especially when they no longer have immunity is impunity. When it comes to crime, the long hand of the British will catch you anywhere. The likes of Dick Cheney were indicted. But in our law, in our own system, the big man syndrome is destroying our country. When we submit ourselves to the standards of the law, that regardless of whose ox is God, we will implement the law. When we have a bold and fearless judiciary, whose remuneration does not depend on the whims and caprices of the executive, we are about to emerge from the woods. That's our problem. Now, that's corruption. Technocrats, what is a yardstick? One word, meritocracy. Nobody can give what he does not have. Lawyers call it nemo dat quod non habet. You can't give what you don't have. You are not going to come and say, I've lived in America for 20 years. I'm back home. Where is what you want me to do? Show me what you have done, where you are coming from. What value have you added there? Have you become a global citizen, recognized in your own field of endeavor? If not, go into private sector and prove yourself. But there are individuals that will be targeted, like Okojo Iweala. Like Obia, they were targeted and they were brought back home and they added value. The best thing we ever had was the one Obasanjo assembled. After that, we have used second 11 and third 11 to run our country. Let me go a step further. Do you mind if I read from the Bible? You don't mind? I'm a preacher. And if you're a Muslim, you can look for the relevant portions of your own book. This is the one I know. Ezekiel 36. I'll read it to you and you will see diaspora right there. I don't need to even read further and take your time. The likes of Daniel, who were in captivity, dominated the history of Babylon for 60 uninterrupted years because they distinguished themselves. They were 10 times wiser than all the magicians and the astrologers of Egypt. They took for Joseph Pharaoh said, is there anyone in this land in whom the Spirit of God is like this man? From this day, you will only be next to me in the throne. By your word, Egypt will be ruled. But let me read Ezekiel 36 for you. And I want you to meditate on it and to pray for yourself. Nítorí ilé o labọ̀ sí mi oko, ilé o labọ̀ sí mi oko, tí ewúrẹ́ bá jẹ lọ, á padà wálé o, tàgùtàn bá jẹ lọ, á padà wálé o, Canada lẹ bá wọn lọ, ẹ ó padà délé o. Ilé o labọ̀ sí mi oko, ilé o labọ̀. Oh my home, when shall I see my home? When shall I see my native land? I will never forget my... If you are a student of the Bible, you know that the kind of patriotic fervor and the zeal that produce the kind of contribution we are asking for, and by right demanding from those of you who had worked in a system that works to come and duplicate and mobilize yourself in such a way that you become a force to reckon with. It requires more than sitting down, acquiring degrees, becoming professors, and those are just tools that will cause you to go back. Bonnie M made a song popular. It's about the river song, Babylon, where we sat down, and there we were, when we remember Zion. Go to that psalm and look at verses 5 and 6. He said, if I forget Zion, may my right hand forget its skillfulness. If I forget Zion, may my tongue cling to my roof forever. If I do not serve Zion with the zeal and everything that God has, it requires such determination and commitment to think of going back like Nehemiah to build the broken walls of Jerusalem. He was comfortable in the palace, but when they told him the wreckage that is going on, he could not sleep. He took permission of the king and he went back. Now in Ezekiel 36, listen to it. I'll read from verse 1. If you have your iPad, low pad or no pad, you can turn to it. Verse 1. And you, son of man, prophesy to the mountains of Israel. Isn't that madness? Huh? Is this prophet going to be crazy? To stand before your sandstones that you call mountains here and to say, I prophesy to you, mountain. The mountains represent the system of governance, 8 types of mountain that make a nation great or weak or poor. Education, the mountain of education, the mountain of economy, the mountain of governmental politics, the mountain of family, the mountain, 8 distinct mountains. He's saying, prophesy to the mountains. Why are you prophesying to the mountains? Prophesy to the mountains and say to the mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord, because the enemy has said of you, aha, the ancient heights have become our possession. There are entrenched interests, political interests in Nigeria that say the mountains are theirs. Can I really be real with you? Winning an election in Nigeria is not a cup of tea. The money involved will make you a rogue by the time you finish. Except we change the system. And they are entrenched interests, I call them power blocks, that determine who becomes a candidate and who wins eventually. The military power block. You saw how the dispatch goes out to go to Port Harcourt, to go tell everyone there, it is Atiku or nobody else, because nobody has the capacity to meet or to face Buhari. And when he won, I spoke to the nation. I said, now the battle is between 2 egos. And those in APC said, I thought you were on our side. Those in PDP were glad to begin to quote me repeatedly. That it's now between 2 egos. And overnight today, I gave them a scripture from Matthew and I gave them a scripture from Luke. In Matthew, it says, Wherever the carcass is, the eagles will gather. In Luke, the same scripture, it says, wherever the body is, the eagle will gather. So you have to go back to Genesis to see that the eagle is referring to that each carcass is vulture, because it's part of the same family as cat is family with lion. So we have two eagles. One is a vulture, the other is an eagle. May the right one win. May the right one win. May the right one win. I choose my words when I speak, except you pressing, I won't tell you what I'm saying. That's why the disciples who go to Jesus said, the parable you spoke, what does it mean? This mountains, the power block one is military. These are retired generals. The class of 1966 that have dominated the political process in Nigeria. I can mention their names, but it's not necessary. If you don't know them by now, don't go into politics at all. Next to them are the traditional institutions. They use themselves. The military use them, and they use the military. They use themselves. I won't mention names, but I know a person in government who called the Emma of the North, one Emma in the North, to speak to Oni of Ife in the South and say, please don't let APC lose the Austrian election. I won't lie to you. I know. They use themselves. The traditional institutions influence their domain. They were the kings before any government came. Military, traditional institution. Next to them, no, you're not there yet. Religious dealers. Because they control large number of people in their mosques, and they control large number of people in their mega churches, forgetting that God is not mega, is omega. They use the people that they can influence to negotiate power with the military. With those in power. That's why you will see an old veteran engaging the president and putting the pictures on the newspaper. That's why you will see a Bishop Kuka and Gumi shaking hands, reconciling two sworn enemies who have now become friends because Herod and Pilate must agree in order to kill Jesus. But they do not know resurrection power is coming. Next to them, number 4, are the corporate cowboys, the money bags. They keep their money and their where their mouth is. They are the one that bankroll both sides. When they see the winning one, they go there because they get all the waivers and all the cream, the la cream of every electoral process. After that is media. Media gurus, those who own media houses. And today, the greatest number or the largest number of media owners are people from South. This Day newspaper, Channels newspaper, AIT, Ben Bruce, Silverbird, they are all from South. And so they will begin to propagate whatever they like to influence the political process. After that is Nigeria Labour Congress and TUC, who are the most cash. If a government in power like OBJ, any of them wants to increase petrol price, they will call Labour. They say, we want to increase petrol price. They will ask them to how much. They will say, we want to increase it to 100 naira so that we can generate more funds. I say, okay, where is our own share? Announce 150 to the public. We will fight till you reduce it to what you want. That's what's been going on in our country. If what I'm saying here provokes, let them challenge me. I will call the lawyer and the time and the place where they were when these things were done. If you don't understand those power blocks and you jump into politics, they destroy you. They want you to come and do obeisance to them so that they can be the one that will give you the crown and take the scepter away from you. But kádàrá mi kò sẹ́ni tó lè yí padà, ìyẹn ti dájú. Ojú tèké o, ojú rọ, Oju telepe, epe oja. If a man like David is destined by God to rule because he had laid his life down for the bear and the lion to protect the flock, he will transit from shepherding the flock to shepherding the nation. Are we on the same page? So, technocrats from here is the word. The mountains are the real issues. When God says, go into the nations and make disciples of every nation, He did not say, get converts in every nation and make disciples in every. He said, make disciples of every nation. He wants this fulcrum of power to be taken over by those who can truly use it as leverage to bring succor to God's people. The enemy had said, you belong to us. Therefore, verse 4, O mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord God. Thus says the Lord God to the mountains, the hills, the rivers, the valleys, the desolate wastes, and the cities that have been forsaken, which became plunder and mockery to the rest of the nations. Therefore, thus says the Lord God, surely I have spoken in my burning jealousy against the rest of the nations and against all Edom, who gave my land to themselves as a possession with wholehearted joy and spiteful minds in order to plunder its open country. Therefore prophesy concerning the land of Israel, and say to the mountains, the hills, the rivers, and the valleys, thus says the Lord God, behold, I have spoken in my jealousy and my fury, because you have borne the shame of the nations. You have borne. Do you know we are bearing the shame of nations? Nigerian passports is, the prefix to every Nigerian passport is 419. As soon as you land, they look at you like a criminal. In the jurisprudence and judicial system of this country, a criminal or an accused person is presumed innocent until the contrary is proved. A Nigerian is presumed a criminal until the contrary is proved. Land in any airport, if it's coming from Nigeria, you will see all kinds of dogs coming after us, because that was what we had become. Whereas when I traveled the first time out of Nigeria in my life in 1980, right inside Arrow Shore, caption, Ekabo, Kedu, Sanudesua, Naira is accepted here. I spent 20 Naira note on the streets of London. 1 Naira was $1.08. Today, $1 is 300 and something Naira. They have destroyed and plundered its open country. Therefore, prophesy. Why is he prophesying? Verse 8 is where I want you to see, because this is where you fit into. But you, O mountains of Israel, you shall shoot forth your branches and yield your fruit to my people Israel, for they are about to come. That's the Israel in diaspora. They've gone to learn. They've seen things. They've refused to sing the song of Zion in the land of captivity. And God is asking the prophet to prophesy to the mountains to shoot forth, because a new people are about to come to order the things in that country are right. You have a role to play. If God begins to put that in your spirit, you will see that He will also create a way. God does not make a vision give a vision without making the provision. You don't have to struggle for it. It will make a way for you. But you must be ready to study the language and the literature of the Chaldeans, so that when you speak as one having authority. You know your onions. Is that clear? It will be meritocracy. You will be distinguishing yourself in your career, in your profession, so that the whole world will pay attention to what you have to say. Is that clear to us? Okay. The voting process and the political family. I can combine all those three together. How are we going to ensure that those in diaspora also have voting rights and they can register? Let me be honest with you. I will interpret, sir. Those of us who are at home, even right now, our votes still don't count. Who is going to supervise you here? There will be massive rigging at different places. By the time you are transmitting it home, it will be crisis. We tried to impress this upon President Jonathan when the Save Nigeria group took that charge, that Nigerians in diaspora must be registered. And he said, we don't even have the resources to do it. But the day is coming, like it's happening to every nation, that you too, wherever you are, your vote will count, and you'll be able to vote where you are. Right now, we are not there. My simple counsel, go back to your country. Register. When you register, keep your card. During the election, if you have a candidate, come and support him and come and vote for that candidate. That's that's where we are presently. It can improve beyond there in the days to come. You can't do it by fiat. You can, and those countries you are copying didn't get there overnight. Is it not in this country that women had no right to vote? Is it not in this same country or in America, not America, that black don't have a right to vote? Progressively, some fought for it and later last year. Are you willing to fight for it too? Or you just want to sit here, be enjoying automation, turn on light, there is light, drive on good roads, and be saying, we in the diaspora, come and say it at home. I think I've covered all those questions.
Yeah. Because of our time, we're having the final set of questions. There are so many questions that are yet to be asked because of our time, but we will rush through this last set. Please, in case your question is not answered, you always have these questions passed across to doctor for further clarifications. Yeah. We have the first one by Dayo Kemakinde. My concern about the Nigerian project is the state of the core north. How do one get the core northerner, the masses, to embrace the nation Nigeria other than religion? Then we have another question by Emmanuel Adedeji. Religion and politics is a marriage that needs to be separated. What is your view with respect to this? The next question by Scholastica Omoribe. It's still partly yours. In your bid for these changes, you mentioned only older Nigerians. Do you have plan to include youth? And the final question is about African unity question. Do you see a common African language as a solution across the continent? And do you see trading with other African countries and the Caribbean as a possible solution? Thank you.
May I make eye contact with those who ask the last questions? Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. You are from the Caribbean. Yeah. I can see from your car. Is it Jamaica or Trinidad and Tobago? Or St. Vincent. Okay. Thank you for this last set of questions. Not because I'm tired, but because our time is gone. And like they said, whatever questions you ask, it can be passed down. They will send them to us. If you have name and email, answers will come to you. It's called responsible leadership. We must be accountable. We must be responsive. And when questions are asked, there must be answers. That's why I said in the last broadcast, any candidate that will not subject himself to debate and questioning, Nigeria should stop voting for them. I will take the first two questions together. Core North. Would they ever embrace the nation other than religion? And then religion and politics. What do you say about separation of both? Friends, ladies and gentlemen, I've spent quality time to think through the answers I'm about to give to these questions. And I appeal to you to please let me die before you bury me. Let me learn. Even if you have a different opinion, I will listen to you and learn from you. Is Christianity the problem of Nigeria? Or is Islam the problem of Nigeria? Does, not just leadership, sir, followership too. Because it's from among the people that you get the leaders. Like the people, like the priests, is what the Bible says, not like the priests, like the people. I'm asking this question because I want to ask you, what is the prevailing religion in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, in Oman, in Bahrain, in Saudi Arabia? I've been to all those places in the Middle East. What is the prevailing religion? Islam. Is your own Islam anti-progress? So what kind of Islam are we practicing in our own country that is not leading to development, but that is leading to oppression of our people? It's got nothing to do with religion. It's got to do with those who use ethnicity and religion to divide our people for their own advantage. Now, I will not dodge from the question separation of state from religion. Religion should be like a private watch that you wear. The matter of faith should be something that is personal. Nigeria, as enshrined in our constitution, is a secular state. I'll tell you what happened during the 2014 National Conference. The first day of the conference, President Jonathan Goodluck came in, declared it open, said wonderful things. And then they called Justice Kutigi, who used to be the Chief Justice of the Federation, as the chairman to speak. And when he got there, said, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, in the name of God the Merciful, and he finished. And he went to his address. Inside of me, I said, trouble. Second day, when the plenary would start, there was traffic jam in Abuja. And many of the big dignitaries did not get to the hall. So, the secretary today, whatever it's called, the conference, came out and said, we're going to give 1.5 hours so that our people can come in. Trouble. Thirdly, the Adamawa Emma and a few other people got up and said, how about allowances for our drivers and our assistants who we have brought to this place? Now tell me, what do you do in such a situation? I allowed that day to pass until we got to question and answer. And everybody began to ask questions. I stretched forth my hand and Professor Bolaji Akinyemi called me. After that day, he said he would think twice before he would call me again. I got up there and said, Mr. Chairman, sir, yesterday you said Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today, when you opened the plenary session, you said Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Is Arabic the lingua franca of Nigeria? Are we here to determine what happened in Arab land? The lingua franca of Nigeria is English. The day you say Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I'll begin to speak in tongues and say, praise the Lord, hallelujah. We will do crusade and not conference. And I turned to the secretary. You asked for extension of time so that latecomers, regardless of their status, can come. If you're speaking and you're working for a new Nigeria, that's not the attitude. How about those of us who got here 15 minutes before time? We knew there'll be traffic. Why didn't you leave on time? Because this business requires a lot of efforts and sacrifice. So the moment we form quorum, don't wait for anybody, however big or small. And number 3, all of you asking for extra allowance. The government did not invite the people you brought. They invited you. You can either give your money to them or you go and look for money to pay them because they are not delegates to this conference. I brought 4 people here and I've not taken a penny from federal government for this assignment. I didn't take 1 penny allowance. Fola Adeola did not take penny allowance. Olisa Agbakoba did not take a penny. If we are, let's leave, Falana took. It's not wrong to take. It's not wrong to take. Big men took, old men took, young men took. It's okay. It's just my conviction that if I cannot serve my government like not Abraham Lincoln, Washington did. George Washington didn't take a penny for his presidency. He said, other than the money, go and read the charter. What made him accept? He said, other than the money for stationery and things that require for me to go from place to place, like the fuel that you put in the plane, I shall charge no dime. Charge my nation nothing. Nigeria needs such selfless leaders to turn things around. Do you understand me? If you go in there and then you bring all your concubines and all your, who cares? Do you know what happened? Because we faced that and we spoke immediately. After that, from that day till now, the second stanza of Nigerian national anthem is a public prayer. There's no more, let us say Christian prayer, let us say Muslim prayer. Baba ma joshaka, ka joshaka, Baba ma joshoko, ka joshoko, oshaka oshoko, ko yomo eniyo. Let us call a spade and not agricultural implement. Sorry that I speak Yoruba sometimes. If you are Igbo too, you are free to say your own. The truth of the matter is I think in Yoruba and speak in English. So I do interpretation all the time. Okay. Religion is not our problem. I was a Muslim who became a Christian by the grace of God, and I preach the gospel today. So I know both sides. I was born in the South and raised in Sokoto. My uncle was Serikin Yoruba in the what do you call it? In the Sultanate. But that does not change anything. There are human beings there. We have used religion to oppress our people. You do not know that a time bomb is waiting, ticking every day. The Almajiris and the area boys of the South, the day the rage of the poor will take the streets and the city, nobody will have a hiding place. Because if they produce children that they do not care for, they don't know their fathers, they don't know their mothers, they are made beggars. Instead of giving them education or skill development, they are not developing them. One day they will turn against society. I do not think religion is our problem, to be honest with you, because I've seen decadence in the church, I've seen decadence in the mosque. He said in my bid for these changes, I did not mention youth. Where did you get that from? I don't know who said it. I said, it's old men you are mentioning. Recently, about 2 months ago, less than 2 months ago, we had a conference in our church. The theme for our Legacy Youth Fellowship, the young people, and they brought young men and old men. Do you know the theme? Not too young to ruin, and not too old to run. Now, there was the guy who pioneered not too young to run was there. Do you think Nigerian problem is caused by the old alone? When God said, I will pour my spirit upon all flesh, he said, your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. What is he saying? I will give vision, foresight to your young men, and I will give insight to your old men. Foresight that has no insight will never produce stability. The older men had worked long at this. Did they stop you from campaigning? Now, all the campaigns of the young people, Shawure, this Mogalu, all the campaigns of the very young people, what has it produced? They agreed among themselves, they signed an agreement that we will go in and we will choose one of us. Did it work? The same plague that tormented the old is now tormenting the young. Because we do not know in honor preferring one another. David was 16 years old when he killed Goliath. Joseph was 17 years old when he saw the vision of becoming a global player. Daniel was 16, between 16 and 19, when he got to Babylon. Jeremiah was so young that he said, God, I'm too young. He said, don't say you are too young. May I ask for just two? Was you to cooperate with me to do two things? Can you clap with one hand? Let us do it all together. You'll not be clapping, you'll be waving. Do you understand me? It takes two hands to clap. I've never seen a bird that flies with one wing. You need both the old and the young to function together seamlessly so that they can mentor. When Jesus said, come unto me, all ye that labor and heavy laden, I'll give you rest. He said, take my yoke upon you. The way a young oxen is developed is that it's attached to an old oxen that will show him how to graze. New brooms sweep clean. Only the old brooms know where to go. That's why you prefer your mama's food to your wife. Say, Kai, the way my mother cooks. Kai, the way my mother cooks. Why didn't you marry your mother? It's natural. We need both. We need both. And God helping us, we have both here. Here's an elder statesman. He spoke there. Here's a young lady. She spoke. You have both here. And anyone that says, it is the time and the season of the young people, may I pray for you that old people in your family will not die? Because it is a curse that was pronounced upon the Eli family that bastardized priesthood. He said, there will be no old people in your family, and all the children in your family would die in the flower of their age. It's a curse. We need both. So I do not emphasize one against the other. Whether we like it or not, office in your age will take its toll upon them. They will have, you know what Charles de Gaulle said? He said, old age is like a shipwreck when he couldn't move anymore. And let's pray that God will give us both young and old that will truly love our country and work towards its development. Common language. That won't pass me. Language is not the problem of Africa. I can open the Bible and you can see it. How many languages were in the world before Tower of Babel? That's it. Everywhere I've asked the question, they say the same thing. Is that true? False. 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 Genesis chapter 11. You are the one tempting me to preach you. Genesis 11. Now the whole earth had one language and one speech. Have I now contradicted myself now? But does Genesis 10 exist before Genesis 11? Yes, it does. Okay, let's go to Genesis 10. I'll give you the verses. Genesis 10, verse 20. These were the sons of Ham, according to their families, according to their languages, in their lands, and in their nations. So there were languages in the world before Babel. Not only that place, look at verse 31. These were the sons of Shem, according to their families, according to their languages, in their lands, according to their nations. You call those nations ethnic nationalities. Among the Yoruba, when an our person is speaking, I don't understand what he's saying. And when Ondo is saying, Baeke, Oyibe, Yeke, Oyibe, that's not the Yoruba I understand. When a Jebu person is saying his own, or Egba is saying, you may not understand what he's saying. In like manner, there were languages in the word, but it did not disturb the development of the word. What happened was they began to execute project that is against God's agenda. And he said, he will confuse their understanding. What happened back then with many languages is, if I speak Ekaroma to her, She will understand what I said, but she doesn't speak the language. Then she will speak Igbo back to me and say, Kodu, I do not speak that language, but I understand. It was the understanding that God took away. It wasn't the languages. And for us to begin to understand ourselves would take supernatural love of God. And we saw that in Acts of the Apostle chapter 2, that the damage of Babel was corrected there. Because Galileans were speaking, and everyone from under heavens came together, and they were hearing in their own languages as they were speaking in an unknown tongue. So when you get to United Nations today, there are interpreters interpreting. We need to love ourselves so well that interpretation of ideas and dreams and visions will not rob us of language problem. You want me to start learning Swahili at my age? I remember when I was being offered the position of chief of staff, and I said, I don't speak Hausa. I've seen that here. If 8 people sit in this room and 7 are Hausa and I'm the only Yoruba man amongst them, they will continue to speak their language, and I don't understand it. I can't function in such environment. So my friend, Nasira Rufai, bought me Hausa language in a disk for me to learn. And I said, thank you. When are you going to learn Yoruba? Those are not the issues. That's not our problem. We have a lingua franca, and those who could not speak English language, we have developed broken. And those who cannot speak broken can speak their ethnic nationality, and they are free to choose people representing them to go represent their interests. Do you understand me? If Africa speaks the same language, it does not change the idiosyncrasies of their leaders. Bottlenecks are always at the top of the bottle. When a fish stings, it stings from the head. May God give us leaders after his own heart that will love the people and work towards the development of our continent. It's not language that's our problem. And I'm not saying it's wrong to learn language, because in order to be effective, Daniel had to learn the language and the literature of the Chaldeans. If you have to do that in order to serve the people, please do it. But I don't think it's our own problem. After I made that position clear, we were in London, and the chief security officer of President Buhari was speaking to him in Hausa language, and he said, Pastor Bakare is here, speak English. End of story. What you are not going to accept when you become rich, start rejecting it when you are poor. So they will not say it's your money that is not in your head. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to our speaker. Let the round of applause continues. Thank you.
We can sit down, please. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Tunde Bakare. We fondly call him Pastor B. Thank you so much. We really appreciate. My colleague was saying that I wish it doesn't end this way. We want to ask more questions, but till tomorrow we'll be on it. Thank you so much, sir. I will want to invite Pastor Nims Obunge. Like I said earlier, just a remark from him. That's the representative of the Queen that we have. And we are so proud to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to, in case the Queen's watching, I'm not representing her. Today's been quite an insightful day. I want to thank all the organizers for putting this together. I know many of you are part of the family. Some of you have come from Latter Rain. How many of you from Latter Rain? Just kind of wave at us here. Great to see you. God bless you all. And something that's unique, I want to say about being a diasporan. I left Nigeria with the intention of going back. I just left because my brother was ill. I didn't know I'll stay there up till now. But whilst in the United Kingdom, I've had the privilege of engaging on different frontiers. And there's some things that as Pastor Bakare was speaking about restructuring, and I need to go back to Nigeria. There's some things that come to mind. I find it difficult to accept that for the rest of my life, I will not go back to give back to Nigeria. So, no matter how much I am away from Nigeria, I feel a responsibility to Nigeria. Many times I've been asked to speak at events, October 1st, Independence Day in Nigeria, and sometimes you get around Nigerians and you hear them talk about the problems all the time. It's like we're full of issues. And we're always complaining. Even the church. And we seem not to get excited about the potentials of the future. Being around Dr. Bakare challenges me to always dream that one day it's going to happen. But you can't dream it and talk against the dream. So the challenge you have is taking what you've heard and actually going back and talk positively and hopefully about the future. I was invited to a unique dinner. I don't know why. By the former foreign secretary. He was foreign secretary at the time, Pope Hammond. And he said to me, the people there were all ambassadors of different nations. And he looked at me and he said, Nigeria must not fail. Britain cannot afford for Nigeria to fail. They are important to us. And he gave me a strategy to give to Mr. President. I submitted it to Pastor Bakare. Unfortunately, PMB. Hey, Pastor Bakare, you know the joke about him being PMB. No. P.O. Box. His P.O. Box. His P.O. Box. You know what P.O. Box is? And so anything for the president, P.O. Box, I give it to him and he goes to deliver it to PMB. The sense of urgency that I picked up from the United Kingdom, there was a clear-cut strategy. As to whether we follow through on it, that's a different conversation. I had the privilege of going back to Nigeria to work. I met the British High Commissioner, Sir Andrew Pollard. And he sent me an email once. He said, Nims, I'm not concerned about crude oil theft anymore. I'm now concerned about electoral theft. I took that email. I said, there's somebody I know. I went back to and I thank God I did, because that created conversations, significant conversations, on one day where you had Pastor meeting him 3 times, meeting with Buhari, meeting with Goodluck. Now, why am I doing all this? Because I'm passionate about my country. And I will do a lot more. There were other conversations I had that remain very private, that I may not talk about. But what I chose to do is, even though I may be in the United Kingdom, I may be in Nigeria, whoever I'd engage with, it was because I wanted to have a positive engagement about Nigeria. If like will attract like. If you give very negative vibes about your country, nobody is going to want to talk to you about your country. What I chose to do and what I've chosen to do is make sure I have and that's my challenge to everyone here and anybody listening who always feels that we've got to speak down on our country. Let me challenge you. Don't speak down on Nigeria. We have a great opportunity. This is a new Nigeria project. Dr. Tunde Bakare has come today and articulated some things that God has been downloading to him for so many years.
Let not allow it be that he has cast his pearl before swine. I challenge you and I charge you. Walk out of this place as champions. You may choose not to vote for or vote for. That's not the point. He's not running for anything right now. He's running for this. When we get to number 16, then I'll challenge you differently. To come home and vote. You will. No, when it comes to number 16, he's not paid me for this. You will come home. We will vote. He will win. And we will change. We will do what we're called to do in Nigeria. But for now, I challenge you, men and women of God, whether you're Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Sikh, or Jew. Let us love God, love our country, and speak well of the country God has given to us. God bless you.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay.
I'm not trying to dominate. I hope you understand. But Nigeria would have gone into tatters in 2015 before this man. Let me explain. When Sir Andrew, was Andrew Pocock then, said to him, I'm not interested in oil theft anymore. I'm interested in electoral theft. He came all the way from the UK to come and speak to me. And both of us went to the British High Commissioner. I engaged him. We spoke. He left. The burden became mine. Remember, I was running mate to Buhari, so I have access. Still do. And I was the one that God used to champion Save Nigeria group that brought Jonathan ultimately to power. So I had access. If you know how close we were to a blow up, you will know that God will use that little girl in captivity in the house of Captain Naaman can use you just to drop a right word in the right quarters. It has gotten to the point that Jonathan Goodluck was ready to do anything and everything, including blow up whatever it is, rather than surrender power to Buhari. Buhari's people themselves, some of them spoke to me, they were ready to blow up everything and anything to ensure all the people running up in front that say peace, Nigerian peace, because they were not the one that did the job. They did their part. Let me tell you how we secured Nigeria not to go total into disruption. He did what he did. I sat with Sir Andrew Pocock. Now Sir Andrew. He was Andrew Pocock. Once they become Sir, you use their first name. And he said, we have investment in Nigeria. We don't want you to burn. Can you speak to both parties? So I went to President Buhari. What would you like to happen? And he said, let the Americans and the British people help us to ensure that the election is free and fair, because we know we'll win. I went to Jonathan, and Jonathan said, the British and the American have ganged up against me, and they want me out of power at all cost. I went back to Sir Andrew Pocock, and he said, no, we are not against him. If he wins, he will still be president, but if he loses, we want him to go peacefully. Long story cut short, I broke a meeting between Jonathan and Sir Andrew Pocock. Sir Andrew, I beg your pardon. Now Sir Andrew Pocock then. And they gave me a key that unlocked that season. What key did they give me? That if Jonathan gracefully release his power after he must have lost the election. Three things will happen. You will not be considered a loser. You'll be considered a constitutional change agent. Number one. Number two, if you had not violated human rights like killing people, exterminating people, if it's just a matter of misapplication of, nobody will harass him. And number three, you'll become a peace ambassador that they will send to other nations where there is crisis. We gave that to Jonathan. He said, okay, if that's it, I come down. One night, I remember one night, he banged the table. He said, why do I trust you? After all, you are his running mate. And I got up gracefully. I said, Mr. President, it is great that has brought you to this seat, not age. I'm older than you are. Don't shout at me. And he calmed down. That season was terrible, that our nation was going towards disintegration and all kinds of blue, red state. Everybody was ready to fight it to finish. I would never forget the simple role he played to help us navigate that system. It's going to be part of my memoirs that there was a Nims Obonge, born in London, whose father was a diplomat, and who knew and is highly connected to House of Lords, House of this, House of that, who whispered in my ears. The day President Jonathan conceded, I knew at 10:05 in the morning, and I called President Buhari. He's going to concede today. Please don't speak a word till we finish. While that was going on, Orubebe entered the hall and started creating scene, but nobody said anything. And when he conceded, President Buhari called me and said, he has just conceded. Thank you. Listen to me. You have the ears of government here. You have the ears of people who are strategically positioned. Speak good things about your country. Become an ambassador of hope, like him, like many others. When we join resources together, Naaman the Syrian will never fight against Israel anymore, because he will be healed in the rivers of Jordan that he cannot get in his own country. The rest of the world need Nigeria to remain a strong nation. If Nigeria disintegrates, the whole of West Africa will be paralyzed. Akwabo, anyone from Ghana here? The number of cars in Ghana is not about cars in Lagos State. Let us be careful to sell our nation the way he did. I call him Ambassador Extraordinary. He dines with the prime ministers and everyone, and yet he will sit calmly and say, I'm a servant. God bless you. Thank you for what you've done for Nigeria.
Renegotiating a new Nigeria. A new Nigeria is possible for us. Even in our small ways, like Dr. Tunde Bakare has just said, we can contribute as little as we think we can. And coming together, we'll have the dream that we all have been having. Thank you so much, sir. We don't know what to offer you. You paid your trip here. You gave us everything that we ask of you. He's always saying, I'm an obedient servant. Whatever you say is what I'm going to do here. We've been on him since Thursday that he's arrived. I'm not sure he's had time to actually rest, but we don't know what to offer you. But the token of our appreciation is what we want to give to you this evening. We appreciate your love and your concern for the nation called Nigeria. I hereby call Miss Iteoluwa Kishi Adejuwon to present to you a token of our love. The two hands. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, personally, I want more, but I cannot change the hand of the clock, unfortunately. At this point, I will invite our convener, Mr. Adebayo Adejuwon, to give the vote of thanks.
Again, I'm jumping. before he gives anything, I want to let you know, without any iota of doubt, this is the 5th of these meetings that I've done this year. This is exceptionally well packaged. I want to thank you for it. Well attended. The decorum is very impressive. You can be rest assured, when the history of Nigeria is written, the history of this period, the name of the convener, the name of the committee, and the name of everyone that is participating will be written in gold. God will bless you richly. Thank you.
Wow. Well, I really don't know what to say, and it's like I'm under compulsion to say something. My wife would testify to the fact I'm a very shy person. Why these my friends will push me to this? Why these my friends to push me to do this is what I don't know. I may never get to know why they push me to do it, but my consolation is that God has made it happen, and I'm very satisfied. My parents are late. If there was anything I would have loved to ask them, is to change the date of my birth. I was born in April. We're in the month of October. I was thinking of changing my date of birth to October 13. That would not be possible. I thank God Almighty for making this happen. When it was on the March the 4th, there was a conference at the Lateran Assembly, Watergate Summit. And as usual, I have this, my childhood friend. We are from the same village. By the way, I'm not from a village. I'm from Ijebu, so if you care to know. So, I said, you have to attend that event. As usual, I do that most times, and he went. And I was watching this 83-year-old man, retired professor speaking, Professor Akitoye. And he regaled us with all the story, what he did in the past. At 33, he was a professor, head of department at the University of Ife. And still as old as he is, he's been running from Lagos to Benue to go and attend. And I told myself, if God will come down now and say, what are you guys doing? I'm old too. I'm not that young, but I'm not as old as the prof. I said, I'm going to do something. I told my friend. I was expecting him to tell me, don't bother yourself, we don't have the resources. He knows me that I'm not a rich man. He said, go ahead and get it done because God will provide the resources. And I said, okay, this one is not my friend again. He should have told me, don't do it. And I spoke to pastors, one of his PAs, Sergio Lachero. I said, you know what Tony just told me? And I said, I should organize a town hall meeting in Calgary. And he knows I don't have the money. He said, brother, I'm going to tell Pastor Emashio. I thought you would back me up. And I said, now I know I have two enemies. And both of them are in Nigeria. To cut the long story short, we started trusting God for this. And I invited a few of my friends to say, I'm thinking of this. I'm crazy. I'm thinking of this stuff. They listened to me. And on the 22nd of April, we had our first meeting. The first meeting led to the second meeting, led to the third meeting, and it led to where we are today. Who am I going to thank for that? God Almighty. So I give thanks to Almighty God for making it happen. It's not about me. Don't mind all these people saying I'm the convener. They give themselves that name. That's not my name. My name is Bayo Adejuwo. These men and women, may I request all the members of that committee to step out, because you can't push me here and I'm behind it. You have to come out as well. If you are a member of the PTB in Nigeria and Calgary, step out. The reason I have to call them to step out is this. I called them. We didn't know we didn't even know how much it was going to cost us. And we knew it would cost a lot of money. So we started the idea and I was thinking, oh Lord, why did I even think of doing this stuff? We are bringing a very big man here. Will he even agree? Now, will he even agree? And they said, you know what? Dr. Osuji, all of them, can you step up, please? I want you guys to step out. I really want you to step out. Don't hide. Don't hide. So this guy said, okay, you marketed this thing to us. It is an idea we are embracing. But can you even go and ask if this man will have time for us? And I set things in motion and I made contacts. And surprisingly, I wasn't hearing anything after a long time. And on this day, can you imagine? It wasn't even me that called. Pastor called me. You needed to be with me in that room on that day. I was looking for space. My room is big enough that it didn't contain me that day. I was so overjoyous. And he said, what do you guys want? And I explained. And he said, are you thinking of making it a Calgary thing? And of course, I was fidgeting because I didn't know the response to give. And I said, well, I live in Calgary. We'll make it a Calgary thing. Maybe a few of our friends can come from across other provinces. To the glory of God today, not only have we succeeded in making it a Calgary thing, it's a Western Canada thing, it's a Canadian thing. We have a representative from North Dakota and the States. And we have the singular honor of having the Queen's representative here. I never imagined that that would happen. Not only that, we set in motion. How do we now market this project to all the Nigerians? And we recognize that our dear sister, the president of NCAC, I wrote what I would call a love letter from Nigeria to her. She replied me with, I don't know, she was so plain, open, and she said she will do all she can. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We didn't stop there. We said, okay, that is NCAC. We recognize other bodies too. I'm being asked to stop now. No. Okay. So we spoke to all the other people and we made presentations and where we have today. So I want you to look at it. Be careful what you call impossible. If I had thought that we couldn't do this, we probably might not know what could be done. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for listening to us. I thank you for heeding our call. I thank you for coming here today. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you very much. Well, your name still remains the governor. Whether you take it or not, this man will not sleep until 3 a.m. in the morning on a daily basis. Well, this event, the engagement is officially finished, and we just want to appeal to you as we announced earlier on that we have a take-away snacks. So, but please, before we do that, I want us to still remain seated while we allow our special guest and the head table to leave first. So I just want to make this few announcements. So after they have left, we want everybody, as you are exiting, you can grab your snacks pack.